Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Wednesday. Yeah, it is Hump Day, the February 22nd, 2023. As you guys will remember last year, right? Jason had that February 22nd, 2022 circled on the calendar. He had that number circled on the calendar month ahead of time, and really close. I mean, when exactly did the Russia-Ukraine conflict get into full gear? Right, pretty close to that 2022 number that you were talking about.
I'm just guessing that the decision to go ahead and invade Ukraine was probably made 1 year ago today. That's just my guess. Physically invading when the war actually started, that's all debatable. But I mean, I just it's just a number, right? It's just something that floated around me for years. It's always there. I'll say this: I've been seeing a lot of 222s a lot lately, Joe, and with the way the markets have been performing and just about what you and I talk about, people just don't have money. It's all baking into the cake right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. Yesterday, a big tough day on Wall Street, and again, I think this is more of what we expected to start the year, and instead we got the disinflation powwow from Jay Powell. Here's what's funny is later this afternoon we are going to get the minutes from that Federal Reserve meeting. Now, here's the problem. We don't really know if those minutes, did they lock them in a vault, right? What happened to them, right? Is this another, it's like the Social Security Trust Fund where we actually spent the money and put the IOU in there. I wonder if they've gone back over the last 2 weeks and adjusted what was said in those meetings, because it should be, based on his press conference, this should be a whole thing about disinflation. And somehow, Jason, I don't think that's what we're going to get.
Yeah, and inflation, I think, is what I can't wait to see for March, because I get the feeling that CPI and all the other inflation indicators are just going to be a flashing red. And I think when you brought on, they brought that other new word, supercore. I think that's the word that we're going to have to key on it. That actually, in the time that I've been doing radio with you, Joe, I think that's the one time where the Fed actually is showing fear a little bit, like really, really just throwing their hands up. I don't know what to do. Let's just take out housing, and we'll call it supercore. I mean, it's almost like a child lying to a parent. You keep lying and keep lying.
I wonder if that's going to be in the minutes, right? That should be in the minutes too. We'll see. That'll come out. I'm sure we'll talk about that tomorrow. But yesterday the Dow was down 700 points. The S&P broke below that 4,000 level. The NASDAQ had a terrible day, and really not much life today. Pretty much flat. The Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, they've all been a little lower, a little higher, but really not going anywhere. I think they'll use these minutes as a way to move the needle a little bit. But James Bullard, he was out on TV. Again, these central banks, they love TV because they want to shape the narrative, right? They want to shape the way people should feel. They want to tell you how they should feel about things. And he was talking about, hey, we need to get to our number. We need to get to our number. And if that means we've got to go back to a 50 basis point rate hike, I'm in favor. Now, here's the thing. He doesn't have a vote. He's a non-voting member for this meeting. Again, I guess maybe he's the talk tough guy. But at least anyway, in his mind, doing a 50 basis point rate hike wouldn't bother him. He's got that number, and most people do. Listen, the whole Fed, they're somewhere between 5 and 5.5. He's at 5.4, which would mean the Fed's funds rate would need to be 5.25 to 5.5. Right now, we're at what? 4.75 to 5, or is it 4.5 to 4.75 right now? So if we got a 50 basis point hike in March, which I don't think we will, but if we did, we would be at between 5 and 5.25. And in that regard, Bullard's like, hey, let's do one more after that, and then let's wait and see. Right now, he's kind of feeling like, Jason, hey, we haven't gotten to our number yet, and yet they want to wait and see.
Yeah, I think all of this, because these are day-to-day comments. You can only comment on where you're at that point in time. But all you have to do is look in the future a few weeks, and it's all going to come down to what their fraudulent numbers, their half inflation number, and what's that going to be? What is it going to be? The CPI, for example, is that going to be 6.5 again in March? And then that's going to change the whole aspect of rate hikes. What if it comes in at 5.5, Joe? They'll be, oh, yeah, quarter point and shut it off, right? I mean, it all depends on the data coming in. And the funny thing is, Joe, as you've said many times, they've got this information probably ahead of the time. They know what's going to happen ahead of time. I think that's why things like supercore and disinflation and these comments are coming out, these words are coming out before these actions come out afterwards. They're crafting a story. So we'll see, Joe, because what's going to matter is when the data comes in, and then they have to make their decisions off that.
I'm not guessing that they have the data. Dude, we've got computers. Of course they have the data. They got all the data right now. Now, February isn't over yet, right? But by next week, they'll have the numbers. They'll know with a very high level of certainty what it's going to look like. And it's interesting. So I don't know. Like, we're going to get one more CPI report before the March rate hike, at least for right now. Bullard's comments tell me that number still may be closer to 6.5. We'll have to wait and see. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. (800-951-0592). The Dow is up 6 points. The Nasdaq's down 3 points, and the Nasdaq, well, I'm just going to call the Nasdaq flat, up 3/4 of a point. Gold's up $2, 1834, 1835. Silver's down 23 cents at 21.65. This market recap brought to you by our friends over at YRefi. You've heard Jason and I, we talk about them all the time. A great place to put some money that isn't correlated. It doesn't care about Fed minutes. Doesn't care. Doesn't care about supercore or disinflation or hyperinflation. It doesn't care about James Bullard and his non-voting talk or anything like that. Up to 10.25% guaranteed returns. $50,000 is the minimum. You can use your existing IRA if you want. You can use money in your bank. You can do whatever you want pretty much. Some of you can even use your 401k. Invest YRefi24. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com or 888-YRefi24. And Jason, Bullard, he's like, hey, we got a chance. We got a good shot at reining in inflation. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You can rein in inflation anytime you want. The question is, do they really want to?
I think they really want to, Joe, but because they're coming in so slow with this, and I guess one thing they say, well, look how fast the rate hikes were in 2022. This is the fastest hiking, in X amount of years, but they have the power to stomp it, right, Joe? They can just stomp this thing. I remember how many times Russia, since the wall came down, have had inflative situations. They don't have the world reserve currency, so they have to print money to buy things, and then when there's too much money, they get inflation, and they've had to. I think I remember, Joe, 10% and 12% rate hikes for Russia because they knew they better stomp that inflation because it would ruin their country. Right. So the Fed has the same power, right?
Right. If inflation continues to come down, I think we're fine, Bullard said. Wow. What a provocative statement. No kidding. Really? But I'll give him a little credit. Our risk now is if inflation doesn't come down. And if it reaccelerates, what are we going to do We are going to have to react. And if inflation doesn't start to come down, the risk, this will be a replay of the 70s. And Jason, that's an outright lie. That will not be what happens. In the 70s, listen, the debt was $500 billion in the 70s. Right? It's $40 trillion. What you had to, could you imagine what the deficit would look like if the Fed funds rate was Paul Volcker-esque at 16, 17, 18%? We'd be running budget deficits $5, $6, $7 trillion.
Yeah, and not to politicize it specifically, but it's interesting that when these market crashes happen, the dot-com bubble, the housing crash, the coronavirus emergency, when the market, I mean, the crash in 2020, I'll keep saying it, that's a more significant market crash than people will give it credit for. Especially look at how they were able to just U-turn that thing. But they always seem to want to do this on a Republican, Joe, and with the whole election thing with Trump and false elections, if you just look at what happened, hey, a Democrat got in, and they don't crash this thing on Democrats. And then since Biden took office, the Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ have kind of just sat there. It goes up a little bit and goes back to that level. The 33,000, 32,000 Dow, the 4,000 S&P, and the 11 or 12,000 NASDAQ. It really it gets this feel, Joe, that there's hey, let's rate hike just a little bit, Joe, underneath the inflation. We don't want the market to crash yet. We gotta wait. We'll see if we can get it to that election cycle. See if we can get a Republican. It almost feels like they have to get a Republican in 2024 so they can, let all hell break loose on that guy's term, whoever that be, and then blame the Republicans and bring in more. I think about this, Joe. Wouldn't 2024, 2025, the Republican president gets in? Wouldn't that be the time to bring in your digital currency in a market crash? Wouldn't that be like perfect? And it just seems like it should be crashing now, Joe, and it just isn't quite crashing.
That would give them a little more time, kind of set the table here. This would be, again, I'm poking fun at Bullard today because he's saying some dumb things, but the one thing I agree with him, because he said, hey, why are we doing this? Let's just he knows where it needs to get. Listen, inflation was 6.4%, period.
Yep.
That's what it was. And the month before that, it was 6.5, according to your funny math. That means the Fed funds rate has to go a lot higher than 4.5 to 4.25. And why are we messing around with a 25 base? Let's just get there. Because he even said, hey, if we just got there sooner, let's just say inflation does come down. Well, then maybe we can lower rates. The worry is, hey, we're not going to get there quick enough, and this thing's going to reignite because we didn't move fast enough. And I think that's a good argument. I really do.
Yeah, Joe, it feels like we're going to have a minor emergency going on for a couple of years instead of a major emergency economically over the course of 1 year. You know what I mean? 2008 is the main year that we talk about the housing crash. It took place over several years, but the main damage was seemingly being done 2007, 2008. It just seems like we're on this slow motion crash until they, a little bit at a time and then all at once, Joe. You've said that many times. I think the all at once, I think they want to push that as far back as they can. It just seems so rigged. How did the market stay so flat for 2 straight years, Joe? No decrease or no increase. And this inflation is just going to keep on going. And they just did enough rate hikes just to sort of keep it from going out of control, right? It almost feels like they wanted to go higher, but they want to keep the markets just outside of emergency just for another year or two, right, Joe? Just a little bit longer, right? That doesn't that how this whole thing feels? And I'll tell you right now, for guys that are waiting to buy gold, I know there's some of you guys listening out there that are waiting. This is screaming to buy it right now, because when this thing goes and when this thing really goes, they're gonna make it go. There's no doubt it's gonna go bad. You don't want to buy it after that. You want to buy it right now, right, Joe?
Well, I tell you what, India and China apparently have been backing up the bus in February. Again, adding more gold, imports coming out of Switzerland off the charts. India coming in strong, China coming in strong, taking advantage of the price. The price was down. Absolutely an opportune moment. And I'm going to tell you this. We've got another situation with Credit Suisse. So Credit Suisse, remember at the end of last year, we started talking about Credit Suisse and that they've had a quasi run on the bank. And their shares were cratering and they needed to raise money and they needed to raise, I forget the number, $4 or $5 billion. Their CEO and Axel Lehman. What a terrible, I don't know that you want to have Lehman as your CEO of your bank after what happened to Lehman. Now, he's not, part of what happened with Lehman Brothers. Just happens to be, hey, his last name is Lehman. But Jason, he came out on TV in December of last year and said, hey, the run on the bank has stopped. Apparently, the run on the bank has not stopped. Credit Suisse now has hit a new record low. Now there's worry about contagion. And again, you got to remember all these derivatives that Credit Suisse has. They're part of the interconnected banking system. All of these little sparks, these are going to be the problems that really rise up here, especially as interest rates rise. Jason, the value of all the debt on these derivatives is under pressure the higher the rates go.
That's correct. It has a little bit of a feel of 2019 with the repo market, right? We never found out which banks really were dying. But as we know with the FOIA request that we talk about so many times about what they actually printed to save things in 2010, Joe, I think when we watch the inflation, and I think Credit Suisse is going to be one of those that needs the money. I think they're going to quantitative ease right under our noses. I think they're going to print it and not even tell us this time. What is it happening now and then the inflation goes up, or is it going to happen later this year and the inflation goes up next year? But that's why I keep saying that this inflation is going to hit hard. It's going to be a lot worse. We're going to see that 9% from last year. We'll see a number that blasts past that. I'm convinced it's going to happen.
A record amount of outflow pouring out of that bank right now, to the tune of over $5 billion left this bank in a matter of less than 3 months, on top of the exodus that was already occurring. Essentially, all the money they raised, Jason, all left the bank now and has put their stock back into this dire position here. And you just have to start wondering, right? How long does it go on? Like Jason said, right now, the fact that other banks aren't getting hammered on this just tells you, my guess is we will learn much later. They're already enacting some form of support behind the scenes, some form, not necessarily quantitative easing, but some type of repo action that I'm sure we're going to learn about later.
Which is just money printing, and all inflation is an increase in the money supply. And if these CPI numbers, let's just say here, let's just take that as a simple indication. If the inflation just stops going down, we're at that 6.5, and let's just say it starts going up to 7 in the next couple of months. Well, Joe, then where did the money and what happened? I mean, I guess they didn't jump on top of it. Well, we didn't at that next year. That's what they'll say. Well, we just didn't quite get on top of it. So now we'll raise it up to this. We'll raise the interest rates up to 7. We'll raise it up to 8. Now we have to do it. And they'll just give that excuse. Well, we just didn't go hard enough. And you're just saying right now, there's a guy right there, Buller, saying, let's get on top of it now. They need the excuse that way. Oh, we made a mistake. We were raising the rates. We just didn't raise it fast enough, because I think they're going to print money to save banks and save institutions and push this thing towards our digital currency date, Joe. That's what this whole thing feels like. And by the way, there'll be a Republican president sitting there when the whole thing blows up. That's what the whole thing feels like.
I don't know what it's going to look like. It really is. It seems so simple to me that we needed to get to a much higher level before we tried to claim victory. And then all of a sudden, all of these numbers get revised. And like I said, they have these numbers. But you can't tell me, oh, we just learned about October and November and December's inflation numbers. We just learned about that, in the middle of February. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Right? And unless, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Fed doesn't use computers. Maybe that's the problem. Right? Literally, that's what we would have to believe for them to have not known what's going on. So all of this stuff that Bullard's talking about, it's all a bunch of nonsense. They already know what it is. Let's just come out and deal with it. But again, I think we've got a problem here with the banks. And again, whether it's Credit Suisse or somebody else, when you see money like that leaving, listen, this isn't the bank of Joe Smuckatelli, okay? This isn't some bank in the middle of nowhere that nobody's ever heard of. This isn't some small little regional bank somewhere that's got, hey, we've got 5 or 6 locations. This is a major European bank, that is used worldwide, globally used worldwide. This is one of the quote unquote interconnected banks. And Jason, people can't get their money out of there fast enough.
I think the bluff by the Fed is out there. They blinked and said supercore. They're making stuff up as they go along, Joe. It's a bluff, and I think we've caught them. The inflation's hot, Joe. It's going to get worse.
(800-951-0592) Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Wednesday. We continue to get plenty of sellers here at, when we look at it as, kind of a microcosm of what's out there in the world today. A lot of our longtime customers really in that position, Jason, where they need to raise funds. They're out there looking whether they're trying to purchase a piece of property, whether they're trying a vehicle, something of that nature, because they're looking at what it's going to be. Wait, I got to pay how much? My loan's going to be how much? Right? My interest rate is going to be how high? And I think a lot of them are getting shocked because, let's face it, for 15 years, you were paying 0%, right? 1%, 2%, maybe a mortgage was 3%. Now you're going out there and you're like, wait, you want to wait 7? Wait, I'm buying a new car. You want me to pay? I got good credit. And you want me to pay 8, 9? Yeah, right. They're freaking out. Well, here's the good part. That means we can sell for less here. We got $20 gold again today. 2050, Jason, 2050 on $20 gold today at 800-951-0592. And I think we're starting to see a lot of what I'll call sticker shock when that people are going to make that purchase that normally requires them to get a loan. And then they see they don't, people really don't understand until it's right in their face what a difference, say, a 3% loan is and a 7% loan. The amount of difference on the payment, it's shocking.
Yeah, Joe, and this is only 1 year. So here's the thing. A lot of people don't need to borrow money every single year or need to do bigger transactions every year. It's every couple of years. The rates came from 0 just a year ago. They were only 1 year. Can you imagine at 3 years? What people are going to be in shock? Somebody might just be carrying on. They have a pretty secure job, and even though things are a little weird, they're secure in their position. And then suddenly, now I need to get a car, or now I need to refinance something, or maybe I got a little behind. I'm using the credit card, and suddenly it's like, what, right, Joe? And we're only 1 year in. So 2 years in, you'll have twice as many people dealing with this. 3 years in, you'll have 3 times as many people have entered into this situation, or even more, because people are getting squeezed. And Joe, the guys that come into the office and sell to us, I tell them, that this is why you bought it. I know nobody likes to bring in their gold and silver when they're a buyer and sell it, but that's what you bought it for. This, the one thing you can smile about when you sell gold and silver is that, look, this is why you bought it, because things can get tough. And the idea is, Joe, we're hoping that the inflation and all the games being played by the financiers of the world will cool off at some point. Whatever their big reset is, we're hoping that it gets to a more reasonable situation where you can have a reasonable day-to-day life without this massive inflation.
Listen,
so buy it when you can get it and sell it when you have to.
That's it. I mean, that's really simply put. Before we had this computer chip shortage for pretty much like 13 years, people didn't buy new cars. I mean, new cars, no one paid unless you had bad credit, right? If you had good credit, you either bought it at 0% or 1%, something like that. It was so ridiculously low. And of course, then they had the computer chip problem. Now the rates are up. And now, like you said, hey, I don't buy a car every year, every other year. I mean, I haven't bought a car in 5 years. I haven't bought a car in 8 years. I haven't bought a car in 10 years. And a lot of these people think, hey, I'm going to trade this car in, right? I'm going to get my money for that. I'm going to get the new car, and I'm going to have a payment that's less than $500. And then they're like, what? Because the payment's $1,000. Yeah, well, the new vehicle's 85. I'm giving you 25, but, you got to pay 8%. But wait a minute. I've got an 800 credit score. Yeah, I know. Well, that's the 800. Thank you. Good thing. Because if it was 600, you probably have to pay 10%.
And Joe, there's always the little trap you fall into. Well, I bought, like me, I bought a Toyota Corolla. I'll be driving this thing for 10 years or even 15 years. Yeah, but then there's that thing that happens to a great percentage of people, the car accident, right? The insurance company totals your car out. Here, you don't owe anything, but now you have to get the next car. Let's say you have, 5,000 or 10,000 equity in that car. You have to go buy another car, and now you get the new loan, Joe. So car accidents do happen, right?
And it's a shocker. It really is. This isn't, hey, I was expecting a $400 or $500 payment and it was $600. That's not what we're talking about. This thing will be double what you were expecting. And I think that's kind of the big problem. We're coming. What do we got here? Oh, we got a few minutes. So Reuters, Zero Hedge is reporting. We know that the other day, China said, hey, we're going to go. President Xi Jinping's heading to Russia. We've had, the whole balloon gate, right? All that stuff, right? We'll spend $500,000 to shoot down a $12 balloon and all that other nonsense. Things are getting weird here. They said that despite the latest among Washington's repeat warnings to Beijing against strategic or military cooperation with Moscow, China is now pledging, and I quote, I hope this is not true, join forces with like-minded partner Russia to defend the national interest. The statement came by the first day of the director of the Office of Foreign Affairs Commission of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee, Wang Yi, on his trip to Moscow. And they got a picture of him and Putin shaking hands. The People's Republic of China is ready to join forces with Russia to decisively stand up for national interest and promote mutual beneficial cooperation in all areas. So it's pretty broad, but it really hints at, right? It didn't say in economic areas. It didn't just say in energy areas. All areas kind of leaves it open to, is China getting ready to possibly start supplying Russia with weapons?
I don't know, Joe, but why do we get the feeling part of this is economically, America is the big consumer nation. We're a big consumer nation. China's big. They just have more people, but we're not buying as much. People aren't buying as much stuff. I don't know how full they're trying to keep their warehouses right now, Joe, but But it feels to me like China's like, well, we better do something because Americans are having trouble buying stuff, and maybe this is going to be a permanent situation. How many years before Americans start buying again, right?
We'll have to wait and see. Let's hope cooler heads prevail. And then again, though, is Credit Suisse the tipping point and we need World War III? I don't know. We'll be back after the break. Eight 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. And the markets are pretty flat here. All markets, gold, silver, the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P, the 10-year note got all the way to 395 yesterday. Right now at 392. Obviously, that just means anything you got to get a loan for now costs more today than it did the day before. We're hearing talk now that China is deepening its ties to Russia. Why do I have a feeling, hey, if you're going to send Joe Biden into the war zone, there was no point to do that, I guess a photo op. I guess this is probably what we should have expected.
Joe, if it wasn't for the consumerism of the United States, China would have no interest in us. Same thing with Saudi Arabia, right? I'm wondering if China really sees, well, they're not going to be worth as much as they used to be. So it's time to get some like-minded guys to ally with. And that would be Russia, right?
Right. Absolutely. Russia, the Middle East, right? These are definitely places to look at. How about this? The IRS. I know, don't you hate those words? Just saying those three letters just makes my hair stand up. They're saying that tax refunds are down 30% so far. Now it's early, but usually what happens is the people that are getting money back, they file right away. So according to the numbers, the vast majority of the refunds get paid out, but before the end. I want to get this number right here. I want to say before the end of April. So here we are almost at the end of February. Refunds are down 30%. And Jason, a lot of it is, and some of these people, again, during COVID, not only were we throwing money at people, they threw a ton of tax breaks at people. Those tax breaks have expired, like the child tax credit and a bunch of others. And people all of a sudden, Jason, didn't get as much money as they were thinking.
Yeah, taxes are one of those things, man. I mean, the IRS to me is it's a loan shark collection agency. That's the loan shark is
with incredible power, by the way. Yeah,
incredible power. Well, I mean, if you deal with a loan shark and the collector, that's Rocky Balboa. He comes up at the docks and breaks your thumb if you don't pay him back.
Why did you break his thumbs, Rock?
That's exactly what our system is. We have a loan shark. Our Congress voted them the powers that they have today, and the IRS was put into place the same exact year to collect. And so, man, you're right. LSC, loan shark collector, instead of LSD, right? We have the LSC, the loan shark collectors, and they're going to have 87,000 more of these guys in the next few years. It's abysmal, and then people better be ready because how is your state and local governments going to pay for all this inflation? The only thing that these governing bodies can think of as well, if we bring in more revenue, and that just means taxing everybody more, Joe. That's always going to be, especially in blue states, that's going to be the one thing that they just go for. They want to just tax to be able to pay their bills.
Well, I'm going to say this, that now all of a sudden, and this is, you got to pay attention here. Some guy, he's the policy professor at Harvard, some high-level economist. His name's Jason Furman. And of course, the Fed, they love their Ivy Leagues, right? That's where they all come from, right? They're all the, super smart people, really textbooky smart people. And he's starting to talk about, let's just talk reality for a minute. We want inflation to come down, right? We all do, right? I think everybody could agree on that, right? We all want it to come down. As I said it earlier this week. I'll say it again next week and the week after that and the week after that. This is a simple problem. Inflation's going to come down when people get fired, period. Period. And until that happens, it's not coming down. It's just that simple. Well, guess what? Maybe I should have went to Harvard, because according to this guy, what I'm saying is exactly right. And he says, listen, the Federal Reserve can't stomach that. They would have to cause people to be fired. They'd have to cause a significant recession, and they can't handle it. So guess what, Jason? Again, we're going to start learning the playbook. They got to bring it up slowly. Start talking about it, right? Get guys like Jim Cramer and get guys like Mark Cuban and all these other talking heads that they put out on the idiot box on TV to start talking about it. He's already saying, hey, we need to raise the inflation target. And he gave a number. Not 3%, because that'd be too dramatic, Jason. That'd be, that's a 50% increase. They go from 2 to 3%, 2.8%. That's what the Fed should do. That way, if we can get it below 4, our target's 2.8, it won't look that bad.
Yeah, inflation should be 0. That's one thing we got to stress more, Joe. If you know why you need to own gold, you should also understand that inflation should always and forever be 0. There should be no inflation. If your country's being run right, which no countries are being run right in the modern age, your inflation should be 0. And when you hear Ivy League school, everyone immediately thinks a bunch of intelligent people. Those people aren't intelligent. It's not what you know, it's who you know. That's why all those rich people send their kids there. It's about making contacts. So you can get a higher place in society. So these kids aren't any smarter than your state school, Joe.
Right. Why do you send your kid to the rich school? So he can get some contacts, right? He can know some rich people. They'll know his name, right? Of course.
Yep.
Think about this, though. I want to point this out to people. So he's talking, he said 2.8, but really in his all of his Twitter stuff, 3%, 3%, 3%. He went on to say how many people would have to get fired for inflation to start coming down. Unfortunately, it's not the 1 to 2 million that Jay Powell seemed to think it was. I'll tell you what that number is when we return. $20 gold right now, 2050 at 800-951-0592. Jason and I are going to wrap it up here in a minute. (800-951-0592) Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason wrapping it up here on this Wednesday, and we're reading from the Harvard economist Jason Furman, and of course, when Harvard, so he's a Democrat, and probably an uber Democrat. So you don't get the reality. So here's what he says. Hey, if the Fed does not raise the inflation target, and here's what's interesting. The longer this goes on, he's got charts, and this is a big report. He did, he put some time into it. He got charts and graphs. By the end of it, Jason, he's talking about, well, maybe it may have to be as high as 4%. We may need to double the inflation target. Could you imagine basically this guy saying, hey, every 10 years, your money should be worth 30 to 40% less. How wonderful will that be? But here's what he had to say. If the Fed does not raise the inflation target and follows through and says, nope, we want to get to 2%, the unemployment rate would have to be at least 6.5%. He goes, that is the best case scenario, which would mean about 11 million people would be out of work, Jason. That's a big difference between 1 or 2 million versus 11 million. And the problem is, once 11 million people lost their jobs, there's a good chance another 11 million may lose them right behind it.
Yeah, 4%. I mean, we keep talking about a monetary reset. The higher inflation is going to happen until it's reset. I don't know, I don't think anyone really knows for sure. I think even the guys putting the new economic model in place know exactly what's going to happen, which is exactly while the gold buying is happening, Joe, by the central banks in the countries. But But yeah, I
It's
think
just
4%
suicide.
inflation,
There's no
it's got to
good
be there or
option.
even higher. I think we're going to see this as a permanent fixture right now until whatever shenanigans goes into the great reset in digital currencies.
Yeah,
Joe.
until we get to the reset. And listen, I hate to say it, but he's not wrong. Listen, we either just got to agree that we've printed too much money and we got to have much higher inflation, and let's just get it over with by raising the inflation target. I mean, think about this. If they raised it to 4%, right now we're at 6.5, at least what they admit to. But then they've got the core, it's 5 something. Now they invented super core, right? I think the super core is already in the high 4s. You can almost say, hey, look we're almost there. A couple more quarter of a point, and we can say victory as long as we say the inflation target's 4%, Jason.
Yep. And you know how this works, Joe, as the data comes in and the market starts to flow, they can move that needle down or up as much as needed. It's like, well, if it has to be 5, it has to be 5, right, Joe? Right. It is what it is. Isn't that what they say in the locker rooms?
The second they put that out there, I was out there telling, listen, it won't last. Now, did I think it would end so quickly? I didn't. I mean, I thought you could get at least 20 or 30 years out of 2%. Apparently not, right? This was invented. It was a made-up number. I've told you this a million times. This 2% number, there was no economics behind it. They just made it up because they wanted to give the illusion that somehow they controlled this stuff. And Jason, this just tells you they absolutely don't. Because here's the reality. We've built this thing up on a bubble, and this guy from Harvard essentially just said, well, listen, if we really want to deflate the bubble back to 2%, right, we're going to crash everything. So let's just, the heck with it. Let's not go back to 2%. Let's just make it 4%, right? To your point. Why not 5, 6, right? And then it'll be great. Gold will love it. 800-951-0592. Jason and I were coming right back with a half empty cup.